Hi, CJ.
Hi, Wendy. It happens every week. I'm sorry, folks. I kind of get mesmerized by the music. I'm bopping around, and all of a sudden, there I am in front of me, and there's Wendy. And hi.
Hi. So I'm Wendy Green, and welcome to the Caregivers Bakery.
And I'm CJ Golden. And this is a place to
relax.
To relax. Yeah, Wendy, you say it so beautifully.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, this is a place that we hope you will just come, put your feet up, relax with us, share stories, build community, and get to experience a yummy recipe at the end.
That's exactly, when you say put your feet up, I do. I try getting them up on my desk. So, listen, last week, talk about recipes.
Yeah.
That golden milk.
That was so good and nurturing. That was really a nurturing recipe, and I shared it with my sister.
Yeah.
She loved it. I think she's like making it every day now.
Yeah, I've been telling folks about it. Hey, I hope any of you and every of you out there have tried the golden milk recipe from Nessa Weinman. If not, you'll find it on the Facebook page. I'm posting all of the recipes after they come down. Well, I'm sharing all the recipes. Shall we get into it right now, Wendy? We have decided.
Here's our big news.
It's the big news. We have two big newses. Newsium. There are folks out there amongst you who have said, we see you sampling the recipes and we're jealous.
That's right.
We want to do it. So Wendy and I have decided we're going to have a tasting party every week. The week prior to our next week's guest, we are going to send you, send us an email. If you email me at authorcjgolden.com at Gmail, authorcjgolden@gmail.com. And if you email Wendy at heyboomer.biz, tell us you want the recipe. We will send you next week's recipe. You can make it. And while Wendy and I and our guests are enjoying whatever the recipe is, you can do it too. A tasting party.
I know. I think that's a great idea.
I don't know why not and why we didn't do this. And, bring wine and coffee. Do whatever you want with it. The other piece of news that we have for you is that we are starting a Zoom broadcast for everyone who wants to join in.
Not really a broadcast.
It's not a broadcast. It's a Zoom meet. Okay, it's a Zoom. You're right. Thank you. Mm-hmm. For people who want to join in, it's the Caregivers Sweet Spot. And there will be topics discussed that will be helpful for all of us. Wendy and I will choose the first topic and we'll have discussion. We'll have interaction between you all and Wendy and myself. You could come on and listen and not speak. You could come on and not put on your camera if you want to be anonymous. But come join the Caregiver Sweet Spot third Wednesday of every month, beginning St. Patty's Day, beginning on March 17th, 1:00. That's going to be posted on the Facebook page today.
Right. I know. This is so exciting. I mean, we are really trying to build a community, and that's another way to do it. And CJ, we have really hit a nerve, I think, with the caregiver community in that we now are booked out with guests through the end of April.
Yes.
No, it's very exciting.
It really is.
we do want to tell people also, if you know somebody who you think would be a good guest, if you think you would be a good guest, just drop us a note in the chat. And while you're there in the chat, share this out with your friends. You can put an ampersand in front of somebody's name, like ampersand CJ Golden. That will notify CJ on Facebook that you think she should watch this. And
Gotcha.
yeah, and then communicate with us. Let us know that you're out there. Gail is so excited that we are sharing out recipes. Yay!
Yay. Yeah, it was a great, it was, because of comments that we've received.
Yeah,
I hadn't thought of doing that. So thank you. This is why we're a community.
that's right.
Because what you are thinking, what you need to hear, what you want to hear, what you want to happen, let us know and we'll make it happen.
And what I want to hear right now
Mm.
is our guest, Chris MacLellan.
Ah.
So let me bring him on. And you introduce him, please.
Chris MacLellan. I met Chris. Hi, Chris. When he and I were doing, it was an international, first time I ever used Zoom, seminar on caregiving. And Chris was presenting and I was presenting. And he had this wonderful podcast called The Purple Jack Healing Ties. And he invited me to be a guest. He's the author of What's the Deal with Caregiving? I love that title. And featured along with his unfortunately now deceased partner, Richard Schiffer, in a 2015 Pulitzer Prize nominated film. The link will be on our Facebook page, about caregiving in sickness and in health. And it follows their story together as partners. Chris is a caregiver, Richard, unfortunately, with the esophageal cancer, how they worked together. He then started the podcast. Chris started the podcast called The Purple Jacket while he was caregiving to Richard. Purple Jacket was featured on the Whole Care Network, which is something that was founded in 2017 by Chris. The man never stops. He keeps going. He keeps working about topics that impact family caregivers. And as Chris now, he says he is now aging gayfully after caregiving. Chris, this is so wonderful to see you.
Well, CJ and Wendy, thanks for inviting me on this episode of the Caregivers Bakery. This has been a dream for a long time, and I'm glad you were able to get this going.
Yeah, I'm interjecting here that I had not said. Chris and I first thought of the Caregivers Bakery, first dreamed of doing it, and then his work took him here, my work took him here, and it's only when I met Wendy that we came to life. So it's because of Chris.
And I think, Chris, you have a very important story to share with everybody. I mean, we're going to share the video links and all, the newspaper link, but you are now after caregiving.
Yeah.
And if you can share some of those adjustments, lessons with us, I think that would be really helpful.
Well, I really do appreciate the opportunity to talk about an area in caregiving that is not often talked about in life after caregiving. There are two very similar instances when it comes to caregiving. There's a beginning and there's an end. And in most cases, well, in pretty much all cases, we're not prepared for these life-changing events. And I was fortunate to have our story told in a 2015 Pulitzer Prize nominated story in Sickness and Health, A Couple's Final Journey. And while that story told the ups and downs that Richard and I experienced during the caregiving, the second part of that story is what happens after caregiving ends. And I can proudly admit that I'm probably the poster child for what not to do after caregiving ends. It's after caregiving is just as emotional as caregiving. And I readily admit that it's taken me a while to get through my grief process, because that's different for everybody. But I think one thing that I've learned in the process, in this vast network of family caregivers, when we can share our stories, we learn not only a little bit about each other, but we understand each other because we've been in those trenches. And that's why I've kind of continued on as an advocate to talk about what's life like after caregiving ends.
So I think the loss, like you said, I mean, it's different for everybody. It can be debilitating, but
Yes.
you have come up very strong. And
Mhm.
so you mentioned that, well, what did you do wrong? But you've done a lot of things right, Chris. So if you could share some of that with us.
Well, one of the outtakes of the caregiving experience was to develop the whole care network, to give people like the position I was in 2011 a voice to, to kind of share their stories, because like I mentioned earlier, when we share our stories, we learn really three things that every caregiver needs: validation, resources, and respite. And the best information and referral, I believe, comes from one caregiver to another. Sure, there are terrific resources out there that are online, but when you can get that validation from another caregiver, from a resource, you're getting something that is trustworthy. It's not like just going to Dr. Google and say, "Oh, I need this, I need this, and I need that." But if you can talk to somebody that has been in those shoes, that trench, who have used a particular service or had a similar situation that they dealt with, then you know that you're in a trusted space.
Chris, after my caregiving, well, I guess I'm still caregiving for my husband, but not as deeply entrenched as I had to be in the past. I got to a point where I said, that's it, I'm done. I'm done talking about caregiving. I'm done writing about caregiving. I'm done speaking about caregiving.
Right.
Did you get there to that spot at some point?
I've been there. I've been there and back. There's been times where I wanted to kind of walk away from it, because it's so personal and it's so real. But then when you get a call from somebody who has read a blog post from 5 or 6 years ago, or listened to a podcast, or has read the story, and they just reach out and they just want to talk, it reminds me of why it's important to kind of give back. And maybe that comes back to my social work and ministerial background. But, there's times when you do just want to walk away from it, because you do need a break. It can't be, it's that care fatigue that we've talked that you see around. It is real, and you need to be able to kind of set your boundaries.
Yeah.
So Chris, did you and Richard have a care team that helped you?
We did, and especially towards the end. I could share this kind of funny story, but it was, oh goodness, right around this time, 7 years ago, my sister, one of my sisters in St. Louis, came down to visit for 3 days. Well, she ended up staying for 6 weeks, because I didn't realize how out of sorts I was. Richard, I didn't recognize. I knew Richard was sick, and I knew the cancer was advancing. I didn't recognize how bad it really was. And then when she arrived, and she was able to kind of help with meal preparation, laundry, things you just take for granted. Then I realized that, oh my gosh, my day was, what I thought was a regular day was off the chart. Balancing rides, balancing appointments to the oncologist, because he went for radiation every day, working a full-time job, in a social life. There's no such thing as a social life of that, but as you get into this routine, you believe that it's just normal, and it's nowhere near normal.
Yeah.
Once she came, and I had home health come in. Richard was very particular about who he wanted to help him out, but we connected with a home health care agency, and the aide was perfect with him, and that gave me some peace of mind. But it wasn't really until my sister arrived on the scenes where I recognized that my days were just off the charts, and I just I didn't recognize how bad it was.
When your sister came and you started to realize and recognize, did you also come to the self-realization that you needed space? I had people come and help me, but I still didn't take space or time for myself. Did you take time for yourself? Did you find a place emotionally, physically, geographically, where you could find respite, even 5 minutes of that? And how did you find that?
Yeah, I'm a big proponent of that finding a 5 minute space. For me, it was usually driving back and forth to work because I was by myself. So I always kind of took that time just to kind of relax. If you can relax driving on Highway 95 in Florida, that's
Right.
Yeah.
Not very relaxing.
But
Right.
that was really some of my only me time. You get to work and you come back, and it's just 24/7. So for me, it was kind of driving. I did try to go up. We weren't too far from the beach. I tried to go up and walk, but I got to the point to where I thought my caregiving cape could handle everything, that I didn't want to leave them. I didn't want to
Caregiving
do those
Cape.
bike rides. I
Yeah.
have my caregiving cape, I could just snap it and everything's going to be fixed, but that's not the case.
No, and that's a great visual, Caregiving Cape, because I think you experienced that too, CJ.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I think we all do. We just think that if we just try hard enough, it's going to get better.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly. And I could, there's so many stories that I could relay, but this one really fits. It's when we made the transition into hospice. We oh goodness, I'm going to laugh at myself to repeat this. So we were just going to get the medicine changed, and he was going to come back. He was going to come back on a day or two to the house. Well, that obviously didn't happen. And it's I had my copious notes. I was ready for the doctor to appear, and Richard's already had a dose of I can't think of the medicine right at the top that they use in hospice.
Oh, morphine.
Morphine. He already had a dose of morphine, and he was resting comfortably. And I had all my copious notes for the doctor, and we're standing there, and I said, the doctor just held my hand and looked at me and said, nobody here knows how this man has lived as long as he's lived, considering the amount of cancer he has inside of him. It's a testament to the love and care that the two of you have had, that he has lived as long as you've lived. And I thought, okay. That's, and I stood there and bawled.
Yeah.
And that's, and I look at our story, and I still look at the story, and I talk to Richard every day. When I look at the story, especially when it first came out and I saw the pictures of him, I thought, oh my God, he was a lot sicker than because I was there day to day, like every caregiver is. You're there day to day, and you don't see those subtle changes.
Yeah.
And
you
then
don't
all
want
of a
to
sudden,
see them either.
You don't want to see them because you're used to flipping that caregiving cape, and they get better and they start going, and everything's going to be okay. But we realize at a point that our caregiving cape is limited, and we can't change and I'll use a generic term. We can't change our care partner's destiny. I would love to have Richard back, but not as it was the last 6-8 months. I couldn't change his destiny. even though I thought I could.
Yeah. And as you didn't see the change, I'm sorry, Wendy.
No, go.
As you didn't see the change in Richard from day to day to day, you were not seeing the change in you.
Oh, only when I tried to put my pants on and they wouldn't buckle. You know, it's 35 extra pounds. How did that happen? Well, that happened because I didn't take care of myself. And I say this often in my presentations. If I was half as good a caregiver to myself as I was to Richard, I would not have gained 35 pounds.
Isn't that true though for all of us?
Self-care
right?
is, and that's self-care is kind of like job number one.
Yeah.
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 Well, I mean, I think what the doctor said to you about the love you gave him.
Gorgeous.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So should we talk about your treat that you're going to share with us?
Well, I'm the guest, so I'm going to follow the lead of the host.
Well, while I bring it up, why don't you tell us why pineapple upside down cake was the special recipe you decided to share with us?
Pineapple upside down cake, it's, you know, like most of my life is connected to Richard. So on my 50th birthday, which is, I'm happy to admit, 14 years ago, last Wednesday, he organized a surprised 50th birthday party for me. It was elaborate with two other friends that we knew. All my siblings came down, and there was probably about 50 people there, and there was this big sheet of homemade pineapple upside down cake. And anytime that we dipped into the baking component of this, of our lives, it was always a pineapple upside down cake. So that's always been my favorite because it's connected to Richard.
Nice story.
And you had a special one last Wednesday, didn't you?
I did. I had my 64th birthday last week on the 18th, and I made my pineapple upside down cake and I should have sent a picture because I ate it all within 2 days.
So we always try to get the recipe, Chris, so that, you know, it can be made easily or it can be made more intricately. So as a caregiver, you know, you have that option. So why don't you kind of talk us through this a little bit?
Yeah, I think the easiest way to do this is to go and buy a box cake. You could do a yellow cake box. There are pineapple upside down cake mix that you can find in any store. If you wanted to be real elaborate and make your own batter, it certainly makes for a messy kitchen, but the box cake is just as good. What I do differently with the pineapple upside down cake is you have a couple of choices here. A lot of times you see just the rings of pineapple around that you place in the bottom of the pan on top of the brown sugar. I like to use light brown sugar, but I've kind of moved things around a little bit and used either crushed or chunk pineapple because it spreads the pineapple out a little bit more, and you can put more maraschino cherries on it as well. And my secret ingredient, even though it's not so secret anymore, is coconut shavings. And you could do that in one or two ways. You can add coconut shavings to the batter. Just got to be very delicate, probably not more than a half a cupful. Or you can spread them around the brown sugar as well and let the coconut flakes bake into the brown sugar. And what that does is it adds a little bit of a crunch to the delicious cake.
So I think we each made it differently.
Yeah.
So I loved the idea of the brown sugar on the bottom, and then I got the chunks and did the coconut, and then used a yellow cake mix because I'm a chicken about making from scratch. It was fabulous.
And I'm a baker, so I was all set to, and I'm also gluten free, and I was all set to make the batter myself and then what happened is that I looked at my week and I thought, "Ugh, I don't have time to do this," which is like what a caregiver would say. And I got a gluten-free yellow cake mix. I wish I had saved the box. It was delicious. I don't remember which one it was. I used the pineapple rings, and because I didn't want to use the maraschino cherries that have that red dye stuff in it, I used, I got a jar of canned cherries, canned tart, pitted cherries, dumped out the juice, and I put the cherries in the middle of each thing. The one thing that I didn't do quite correctly is I had this huge sheet cake and I turned it over on the plate and a quarter of the cake landed on the counter and fell into pieces, which I then promptly ate because we know that there are no calories in pieces of
crumbs, right?
Of crumbs, yeah.
Right. So
we're just going to have a pineapple upside down cake bake-off.
I think so. But it was delicious. And it's, Chris, thank you for bringing this one because it is a recipe, as have been the others that we've had, that you can make if you're a caregiver, you only have a couple of minutes. You can sit down and enjoy as a caregiver, finding time, not driving in the car and eating it, however, but sitting at the kitchen table.
Yeah. And let me share ways for people to get in touch with Chris before we actually sample ours, because he's a wonderful resource. So if you want to reach out to Chris, you can email him directly at chris@wholecarenetwork.com, or you can go ahead.
And I would say one thing we didn't get to, I could, if people would like to email me, I could share my recipe for life after caregiving as well.
Is that the one that you sent us?
Yes, it's gorgeous.
Beautiful, beautiful. I would encourage you all to ask him for that. And then, so this is the Whole Care Network, where you can find other blogs and other podcasters, and CJ and I are going to be part of that. So we're excited about that. Their video, part of the video story is on this YouTube channel. And CJ will post these when she posts the recipe. And this is a longer article than what's on the YouTube of the whole story of Richard.
That's the whole story.
Yeah. And it's a beautiful story. So
yeah,
very fortunate.
You ready to taste it?
Yeah.
I know. Sorry, this is the last time, everyone, that we eat in front of you, because when you all send us your email addresses, we are going to send you the recipe ahead of time. So you can email CJ at authorcjgolden@gmail.com. You can email me at wendy@heyboomer.biz. And we are going to share the recipe. And so we won't be eating in front of you.
Yes, and you'll be joining it. It's a tasting party. There we go.
Tasting party.
Okay. Okay, here we go. Oh, wow. Okay.
I know it's so moist. Oh, y'all have to make this.
Moist.
Yeah. I like the light brown sugar too.
The light brown sugar is better.
Yeah.
The moistness comes from the pineapple juice.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yes, you guys, when you go on our Facebook page and get this recipe, you're going to be so happy.
It will be going up today, along with the links for Chris. Chris, you are wonderful. Thank you. I'm honored to have met you, to call you a friend now, and a colleague.
Well, we're all in this together.
Exactly.
And you've introduced me to Wendy, and I'm really glad that finally the Caregivers Bakery is up and running, and happy to have you a part of the Whole Care Network too.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chris. Thanks for being our guest today. I am
Enjoy
Wendy.
And I am CJ. And do I have time to say very quickly that next week, Kathy Truesdell will be here, speaking to us and telling us about her. She was born in Hawaii, so it's her Hawaiian recipe for, is it a pasta? With
And veggies.
And veggies, yeah. So healthy. She's a very special woman. You will enjoy meeting her as I enjoy having her as a friend. She's been a volunteer for the Boy Scouts because of her 3 sons. She's helped a girls' basketball team. She played baseball as a kid. And at the end of that, we will all have a tasting party with her recipe. So thank you for being with us today. Caregiving is not a piece of cake. We're glad that you're with us to help us all find the sweet spot. Take care.
Bye.
Bye.